okay? I know you're just stuck in a rut here. Just find something different, okay? Let's liven it up a little bit, too. There's a little better toe tapping action. All right, thanks as always for sharing your lunch hour with me on 50 Plus. In this segment, we're going to walk a path that it sometimes is kind of tough to find unless you know where to look for it. And to explain that and almost certainly give us all something to think about, I'm going to welcome in Rob Cross, author of a book called Flip Your Thinking to Ignite Your World. Welcome aboard, Rob.
Hey, Doug, how in the world are you?
You know, I'm doing okay for a tired old man. I've read through a pretty good portion of the book now, and it seems like almost every page I turn carries a very consistent message that a lot of us could be a whole lot happier if we just change the way we process the things that happen to us every day. Is that a fair summary?
Boy, isn't that the truth? The book has a lot of answers to it, and it's going to be the simplest read you'll ever read. That's for sure. It takes you back on a journey to common sense, is what it does.
Yeah, I see that. What in your life inspired you to take on this non-traditional way of coping with adversity? When did you figure this out?
Oh, a few years back, I was things weren't working in my life. I recognized that life wasn't going according to my plans. Can you imagine that? I mean,
you're unique.
People weren't living according to what I thought they would live. And
oh, wow.
What in the world? It's like, okay, so something's got to change. And it just hit me. My goodness. You know what? The only thing I can control is my thinking. That's it. And I tell you what, I've been just extremely fascinated by how we are all just stuck in a rut because of what we make things mean in our mind. It's like with this New Year's resolution, it's like, well, Happy New Year, by the way. I think we can still say that.
Sure.
We start by, what am I going to do different this year? So we start doing it, and then we fall on our face, right? We're called human beings, not human doings. It's time to stop and be and give some thought to something that we never really give thought to, and that is what we think about. Yeah. If you think about what you think about, you're going to recognize, by golly, I've been started on second base. I need to go back to first base and really recognize, good example, I was coming home from pickleball yesterday. My wife
Oh, no, don't bring that up.
I love it. I love it.
Perked up. That's okay.
It keeps my girlish figure. I tell you what.
There you go.
But I was, I didn't like this guy that we were playing against.
Okay.
I was going to tell Frank, I don't like that guy. He just has a bad attitude. Years back, that entire ride home, I would have said, man, I would have talked all about that guy and how he upset me and how he just shouldn't have. And I can't believe that but you know what, Doug, flipping your thinking just changes your life. Taking upset as an example. Do you realize the only time you're ever upset, the only time you're ever upset is when the world isn't cooperating with your plans?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's it.
And so I said, honey, I'm going to flip my thinking. I'm going to talk to you about me and about my interpretation of what that guy was doing. And I'm going to become fascinated with my own upset. Because I tell you what, your upset is located inside you every time. And that's just one example of flipping your thinking. And when you do that, when you flip it and you totally flip what you make things mean, then you're free to engage more with life rather than cut people off. Mm-hmm. Your opportunities open up to you because you're not shrinking back. You're not a critical spirit. Tell you what, that kills so many opportunities.
Boy, it does.
So that's just one little example of what happened yesterday. It's flipping your thinking on these. We have this book has 36 ways you can flip how you think about everyday things in life, and it's a powerful read.
Yeah, I like the way you say that if you want to change something in your life, whether it's your marriage, your kids, your job, whatever, then start by changing you. I've never heard it put that way, but it really makes a lot of sense. It's you who has to take the ball and run with it, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that probably the biggest misconception that we have, and that's what this book is all about, is people. I'm so humbled by what I'm hearing from people. Mm-hmm. It's like, bing, it's like lights go on all over, because the biggest misconception I think we have is that I thought that I was a product of my environment. But no. My environment is a product of little old me.
Of your thoughts.
And that's good news.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good point.
Is because I can change my environment by changing me. And that's what this is all about. It's such a good news book. My goodness, because you can listen. Forget about the New Year's resolutions; throw them away. Let's go back to square one, and let's talk about why it's important. And old way of thinking is not going to bring you. Old habits won't bring you anything new. You've got to change the habits by changing your thinking, starting on square one. There's so many ways that setbacks. Setbacks is another great example. I've had so many setbacks in my life. You probably never had a setback.
No, not at all. Sure.
Of course not. But when you have a setback, we typically hold it as, oh my gosh, I got to start cutting back. This is bad news. This is horrible. Boy, I tell you, I look back and I thank God for some of the setbacks I've had that took me to something much bigger and much better. And when you're in the midst of what you call a setback, flip your thinking and go, Lord, what's going on here? What's waiting for me that's bigger and better? And it keeps your antenna up. It keeps you listening and watching for what's around the corner instead of shrinking back and taking the role of the victim. That's not what we want to do. That's not going to get you what you want in your life when it comes to business and love and relationships and parenting and just joy.
Rob Cross, author of Flip Your Thinking to Ignite Your World. Let's take this. I'm going to challenge you a little bit here, Rob, to take some of the emotional situations we have to tackle as seniors, maybe loss of a spouse or a parent or a friend. Are there different guidelines for getting past something like that than for getting a teenager to clean his room?
That's a great question. Honestly, it's just my personal opinion.
Sure.
I really believe that the simplest thing is life. Yeah. Life is so extremely simple, and I really believe that the answers are all basically the same. It's all in how you hold it. It's all in the perspective that you give it. In parenting, I love parenting, and I learned that there is one simple rule to parenting, and that is, does that child feel loved? I tell you what, that covers so many problems. You just wouldn't believe it. I've counseled many folks in their parenting, and that's. But on your in aging, my goodness, I'm aging. You're aging.
Sure.
It's the perspective is that aging is perfect. It's a part of the design. Mm-hmm. You look at the design of life; it's just the way it is. So we have to find our peace in that where we are is perfect. It's not something we fight. You're either accepting or you're resisting. And all we want is happiness, right? That's all of us want. And happiness is not going to be found in resisting anything. Whatever you resist persists. That's just the way it goes. So find your peace. How am I going to make peace with this? And aging, listen, it's a beautiful thing. It's let go of your resistance. First of all, ask yourself the question, why am I resisting? What am I afraid of? I honestly believe the person that's afraid of death is the person that's afraid to live. And
that makes very good sense. It really does, Rob.
Yeah, and if you find your perspective and recognize there's a design for everything, and you can't tell me there's not an intelligence behind all this design. I think God made such an amazing creation here, and He created death, and so it's the perfect part of the perfect plan. So find your peace in that.
Rob Cross, author of Flip Your Thinking to Ignite Your World, available pretty much everywhere, Rob, because we're run out of time, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it is. I've got a couple of books out. Listen, I want everybody to know that they are far more capable than they think they are. You just got to stop and think about what you think about, and find your brilliance, your greatness. You're made in God's image, and that's a pretty good image.
It's a good place to start.
Thank you,
Rob Cross, thank you so very much. I really appreciate your time. Go read that book. Go get his book and read it. Every time I pick it up and start thumbing through there, everything I've read makes perfect sense. And it's really got me thinking about how I think about things. A lot of things going on in my life, too.